Chess won on Saturday, December 5th, 2020 for MarketChess.com. I want to do a video here discussing sports betting. We'll talk about this notion, this concept of picking your spots and looking for a spot. Looking for a spot to get involved. You could equate it to trading and investing, of course, as always. All the analogies apply because we're talking about speculation here. Here's the Week 14 lineup in this wild college football season, and you wonder, okay, where do I start? What game? Do I bet the favorites? Do I bet the underdogs? Any big upsets? Again, what you want to do, or what I like to do in this situation, maybe look to see, are there any discrepancies? That's how you arrive at your spots. You can go to websites like covers.com here. They provide some interesting line movement data. Again, it's not the end all be all. It's not dispositive, as you might say. But it can definitely be a factor to consider. For example, you'll get updates on why the lines move. Let's take number 4, Ohio State, clearly an elite team. They're playing at Michigan State, which has been up and down all year, mostly down, but they did have some impressive wins at Michigan, and then Northwest knocking off Northwestern, I believe, as well, just a week ago, which was a very impressive win over what had been a very strong Northwestern team. So Michigan State could be dangerous, but Ohio State is still favored by a ton of points. I mean, I think as we're doing the video here, it looks like the line is minus 24. So when Ohio State is minus 24, the line's moved even since this article. So that means Ohio State is basically spotting Michigan State 24 points just from the get-go. And the presumption is, as a big favorite, they can cover that spread. But what's interesting isn't so much the line in terms of who's favored and who's not. The total, meaning how many points will be scored in total between the two teams. The total opened at 59.5. All right, not a really high-scoring game, but a moderately high-scoring game, I guess, for college football. And it spent a few minutes at 60.5, so it popped 1 point. Again, the market's moving these lines, right? Then it immediately returned to 59.5. Now, what's interesting is 89% of all bets placed are on the over, so they're betting it's going to be a higher scoring game than this total. But just 60% of the money, okay, so the actual money of all those bets is on the over. So that's a little bit of a discrepancy, and that's what you look for, just little spots, little discrepancies. And let's kind of flesh that out, right? About 9 out of every 10 bettors thinks it'll be a higher scoring game than, let's just say, 60 points, 60.5 points, right? 59.5, 60 points. All right. So 9 out of 10 people think the game, it could be a blowout. Ohio State will score in the 40s. Maybe Michigan State will get into the 20s. But just 6 out of 10 people, in terms of 6 out of $10, I should say, agree with that thesis, right? So it's a little bit, again, of a discrepancy. Ohio State has had the last couple of games canceled, I believe, due to COVID. So they might be a little rusty. That's a factor. Their last game was a close call against Indiana. They won at home on November 21st, 2 weeks ago. And again, I think that's interesting. But here's another factor when we do our research for the game. This is Michigan State's schedule. They lose to Rutgers, an embarrassing loss. Then they come back and beat Michigan, a very impressive win. Then they lay 2 eggs in a row. Okay, their offense can't do anything. They score 1 touchdown against Iowa. They get shut out against Indiana. Then they come back and beat Northwestern. So they've been up and down. But when they're down, and they're just coming off a win against Northwestern, when they're down, they tend to be really down. Okay, so that's one factor, and that would definitely not see the game going over the total, or most likely, I should say, not definitely. But let's say Ohio State wins 38-7, 45-7. That would still be well under the 60 threshold. So I think that's one factor to consider. Again, Ohio State has actually given up. You can see their opponents' totals this season. If you look at the statistics, they've actually been uncharacteristically giving up big plays in the secondary this year in their pass defense. It hasn't been, usually Ohio State is defensive back university. That's what they call it the last several years. Think about Denzel Ward, Malik Hooker, Marshawn Lattimore, some really elite defensive backs coming out of Ohio State the last several years, they're a little rusty this year, or they're just not quite playing that well. And so the issue is, will they get that corrected today? So you can see the back and forth factors, but I come back to the money discrepancy. And at the time of the video, let me give you an update here. Yeah, the total is still pinned at 59.5. So here's the question you have to consider. If you're looking for a spot in sports betting, 9 out of 10 bets are on the over, but the bookmakers, okay, and they can move the total in their favor in the way they deem it, right, according to the market. You would think they would be pushing the number up to 61, maybe, right? And they're saying, all right, the market expects a high total, so let's move it higher and let's go with the market. They're not. They're saying, you know what? We're okay with the total of 59.5, and you can bet as much as you want on the over. At least that's what I'm seeing so far. So that leads me to believe there might be a spot here for betting the under. It's going to be 30 degrees, no wind, just cold, a bleak, cold East Lansing, Michigan day. So weather, it'll just be really cold. I don't expect it to be too much of a factor. But I do think, again, that could be the spot here to watch today. Ohio State a little rusty, maybe coming off on offense. They should still win the game going away. Michigan State coming off a big win against Northwestern, but they have a history of big letdowns, like after the Michigan win upset and Halloween, of two big letdowns on offense. They do have a wide receiver who can play very well, but again, Ohio State, will their secondary be up to the task? That will pretty much be the deciding factor in this bet. So I just wanted to walk you through my thinking on sports betting there and looking for spots. Sometimes it could just come down to you're not trying to force a bet in there. And you're not trying to massage the data in your favor. You're just trying to see what the market's doing. And again, 9 out of 10 bets on the over, but only 6 out of $10 on the over. And the bookmakers are keeping it right at 59.5. They've had every opportunity to raise this total. Incidentally, the same thing happened last year in the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the 49ers. The total had every chance to go higher. 9 out of 10 tickets were on the over. The bookmakers kept it lower and actually dropped it a point or two, and the game went under the total, even though it seemed like it was a slam dunk for a runaway high scoring shootout. So that's kind of my analysis here. I hope you found it useful. Just wanted to walk you through. If you find it useful, again, feel free to hit me up on Twitter and love your feedback. Thanks so much. Enjoy your weekend.